the main strategy to get women in senior leadership roles or on the boards is to want them. You have to want that diversity of perspectives. And once you've decided that you want women in those roles, then you have to expand your mental Rolodex. And you may not know yourself of good women. So you have to be willing to trust partners, trust search firms, trust other colleagues to help source good women for the various roles. But the expansion of the mental Rolodex is very important, because if you keep your mental Rolodex at the folks you've worked with in the past, or the people you know, or the people that run in the same sort of circles as you, it's probably going to be pretty limited, and you're not going to have that diversity of interest represented.
I don't think there's any one single strategy. I think it's a multifaceted approach. For us at Catamaran, we have an executive succession planning process where we identify women and men who can take their skill set to the next level and obviously grow into bigger roles. So what we've endeavored to do is set a training program in place to identify these people and then put them in a track to develop their skills. And it happens at the first line manager level, where we're developing men and women in these roles. And as you progress in our company, you can aspire to something called the ELP, or our Executive Leadership Program, which today is about half filled with women. The idea here is training people for executive level management. And so I do think that a track in terms of training and developing people, and then the hand-to-hand combat of coaching, mentoring, and giving good feedback is central to success.
The Women's Leadership Network at McDonald's is a part of a broader strategy, if you would, relative to how you continue to develop talent. And so for us, we have several different aspects. Women's Leadership Network are women from around the globe in McDonald's, and it's an affinity group of women, but it's supported by all of us. So whenever there's a Women's Leadership Network meeting, you'll see myself speaking to the group, Tim Fenton, our Chief Operating Officer, and it is a tremendously powerful group. It helps many of the women across the organization establish leadership roles of a broad base and a broad group of people, even when they may be managers or early stage directors in the organization. You don't have to be a senior vice president to be the chair or the officer of the Women's Leadership Network. And it's fantastic because they get a different level of exposure.
I think that I haven't discovered any anything that's rocket science. I think simply talking about the issue is important to make sure that when you, for instance, are hiring people, that you have a diverse slate. You may not necessarily hire a woman or another a minority, but I think it's important to consciously go through the process of making sure it's a diverse slate. Other processes, year-end promotions, thinking about opportunities for new areas. So I think there's a certain amount that can be built into the process. But I think a lot of it is the more informal things. Are you spending the right amount of time? Are you making sure that the viewpoints of the women who are in the room on your management team are being heard? And so it's also an everyday kind of a thing.
One of the things that I've done with a colleague of mine, Cheryl Francis, through a not-for-profit we established, Corporate Leadership Center, is launch a program which is now about 4 years old, Leading Women Executives, which takes high-potential women from the corporate world who are at mid-career and focuses on those areas where they need to demonstrate their leadership and make it visible to others. So whether that's being clear about your personal brand and how to project your value and your attributes, whether it's about thinking afresh about your network and how your relationships help you and your company to advance, whether it's about how you can negotiate for successful outcomes, all of those areas I've mentioned have to be handled a little differently by women than they do by their male colleagues to get the outcomes that women need and deserve.